Hello friends, thanks for tuning in. It takes us for a little walk. I wanted to share a little bit with you about how my journey was yesterday. And I don't know if I can even find the words to express what happened. It was incredibly beautiful and just reflected to me my intention to connect with the message of the day, which was yesterday, and it was connecting with heaven on earth, and I journeyed with that. And where did it take me? I was going to see my parents. I hadn't seen them for 8 months, and my dear friend lent me his car. Thank you, Robbie. Lent me his car so I could drive over and see my folks for the first time in 8 months. And I had this intention because it was heaven on earth. I thought, well, I'll hold that in my heart today and see where that takes me. And it was quite just such a beautiful experience to be able to meet my mum and have a picnic, and the weather was lovely and everything was just so perfect. We even got to go on a boat and have an ice cream, and it was just so, like, I don't know, I felt like a child, and I think my mum really reflected that as well. She was in a really playful place, and she's incredible, my mum. She's 88 and she doesn't look it and she doesn't act it, and she has such a beautiful place of trust, and I really appreciate that, what she's taught me about optimism and glass is always full, and you know, the message of when it's your time, it's your time. And I've really taken all of that on board, so I'm really grateful for my mum's wisdom. So I got to experience and be with my mum and my sister, and it was just a beautiful, perfect, flowing, graceful, easy, joyful day. I didn't have any stress getting anything ready or getting out of the house. It was just the whole thing from the moment of the meditation, heaven on earth. I just went, I'll have that. I'll give that a go. And I completely had it reflected. It was really very, very sweet. And so, yeah, incredibly grateful for... There's these brilliant little flying things that just look like little fairies. I don't know what they are. They're kind of like little moth things. I don't suppose I'll be able to get one on camera, but that's what got my attention. Oh, the elementals are coming out to play. Gorgeous, love them. So yes, I'm just going to turn around and walk back a little bit. Yeah, so it's just really in a place of gratitude and really enjoying my mum and being present with her. And then we journeyed on. I took the kids to see my dad, Grandpops, and he's unwell and in a care home, sadly. So we had to do a window visit, which probably was easier than me actually going and sitting with him and not being able to touch him or hold his hand. They're not letting anybody in the care home at the moment. So I got to peek through the window at him, and his little face, he didn't know, they hadn't told him that I was coming, and his face, he was so surprised and blessed. I felt just this love pouring from him, and he was in the middle of his tea. He was in the middle of having his tea, and he was so incredibly present, and I could see his attention was absolutely dedicated to looking at me. It had been a long time to see me physically, and it was really touching, and so I'm just remembering. So the gift that he gave me was his absolute dedication and presence to meeting me in that moment and making this eye contact where his eyes were so wide and he had this smile on his face, and then he'd completely just disappear, and then he would completely be focusing on something else, and because he was eating his sandwiches and he's having his soup, and he just went to his sandwiches, and then he was completely dedicated to eating a sandwich, and then he was dedicated to having his soup, and then he had a bit of tea, and then he'd come back to me, and then he would completely dedicate his time to looking at the children, or just this eye contact was just so extraordinary. He was so unbelievably present, and I felt so touched, and I felt his vulnerability and his presence together. Just, my heart just couldn't help but open. And it was like my heart had been given the opportunity to open over and over and over again yesterday. And by the end of the day, I was completely wide open and feeling so much gratitude and so much love for the experience of presence and the gift that I had received just from receiving that presence in that moment. Each moment, over and over and over again. I would probably say it's the day that I have been most present in my life, and for such a long time, for each experience, for each intimate experience, which is today's message. So I might make another video after this one, but the intimacy and the connection of that presence that I received from my parents, and their love for me, and their love for life, and their love for whatever it was that they were doing in that moment. And it took everything else away. Everything else disappeared. Nothing was important. It was just being with them and receiving their gift of presence in the world. Just extraordinary. So I'm so incredibly grateful. And I don't even know if this can describe what I actually experienced yesterday. But it was pretty profound. So yeah, deeply grateful for presence, vulnerability, and having heaven on earth. Slice of heaven on earth was the message. I had more than a slice, I felt, yesterday. I had many slices. And piecing them all together made a pretty lovely picture for me, even though it coulda, woulda, shoulda been pretty sad circumstances. I felt so much gratitude that it blew everything else out the window. And when I did leave my dad from the window, I did have the tears. They did come, but they were so welcome. It was more that I was tapping into something that was being released. It wasn't a sadness. It was another sort of tears. It was another sort of energy. It's really fascinating. So yeah, so that was my journey yesterday. Thank you for listening, and hope you've had a beautiful day, and following your heart, sending you so much love and gratitude.